Welcome to the Power of Nature podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Waldo. In this show, I talk about how connecting with nature and the natural world can create amazing and immeasurable benefits for us and in our lives. I share stories of my experiences doing this as part of a regular and ongoing practice, and I talk to others about their experiences with the power of nature as well. So join me as we go on a journey of learning about the power of nature and the impact that it can have on our own lives. Welcome back to the Power of Nature podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk about the power of the skies and the clouds and what we see when we look up there, what we experience, what we feel, what it can show us, what it has shown me, and how it can benefit us, or how it's benefited me, and it can benefit you too, if that's what you want. So, just kind of gathering my thoughts for a minute. And today is a day when I woke up here in Montana and it was overcast. We've been having some unusual weather with a lot of rain and cooler weather, but I've really enjoyed it. I like the variety and it not being so just kind of hot and dry and the same every day. And I like having the grass grow and green, from the rain. But with rain, comes overcast days. And I used to be affected by overcast days. I would be affected by them because they would kind of feel a little dark or a little, I don't know, just I would kind of notice that on an overcast day, I would feel a little gloomy myself. Not always. Sometimes if I had a project I was working on, or I was really, focused on what I was doing already, then the weather didn't matter. But when I was kind of just, I don't know, feeling uncertain about my life or feeling uncertain about things and just kind of feeling almost like I'm in a state of waiting, when I would wake up and it would be overcast, it kind of always felt like it affected me. So this morning I woke up and I felt a little bit like that. It's also the anniversary of my dad's death. Almost 2 decades since his passing. And, it's funny about when someone you love dies, it's like, at least for me, what I experienced is it was so hard in the beginning. And then I kind of feel like I get my footing and I feel okay. And some years go by and I kind of don't even notice it's the anniversary. And then other years it's like, wow, it really hits me. For some reason this year, it really came to my awareness that this was, that today was coming up and today was the anniversary of my dad's passing. Excuse me for a minute while my cat, Art Cat, who lives in my office, sits on my lap. She was scratching the couch and now she's trying to decide where she wants to sit as I'm recording. But today I kind of, I thought about it a little bit last night because, I don't know, right before bed, I went to bed at, actually it was midnight, so it was technically the anniversary. And I thought about that day that I got the call that my dad had died and how that felt. And then I don't really remember much else other than, the funeral. But today I woke up and I felt kind of cloudy, and it was cloudy out. And I thought, well, maybe this is also related to, just me having stuff come up this year about my dad's transition, kind of having it affect me more. And, I think in the past I might have, I don't know, if I felt some sadness or I felt some uncertainty, my younger self would have avoided that. Like, oh, I don't want to feel that. That feels scary or bad, or it's going to get me down or whatever. And then I went through a phase where I was like, all right, anything I'm feeling, I want to feel it all. And I want to feel it. So I then had the opposite reaction. Like, what am I feeling? And, let myself go into it and go into it and go into it. And I feel like now at this point with my life experience under my belt, it's a little bit of a different perspective. And it reminds me a bit of the skies. They always change. And I think this is such an amazing thing that nature shows us that has helped me understand, my feelings and whatever kind of situation that I feel like I'm in that feels like it's just set in stone and it feels like it's my reality and it is set. Isn't that kind of how it feels with the weather? Like if we didn't know that the weather could change, and here in Montana, the weather changes really quickly. But if we didn't know that the weather could change and the weather just suddenly became rainy, and then we just thought of that as our reality. Oh, it's raining. We're experiencing rain. We're experiencing this, or, whatever it is. We might, I don't know, we might kind of feel trapped in that. And I feel like nature has taught me so much about just the power of nature and what it does, but also about navigating my own feelings and experiences and how I'm processing, with my own awareness, what is coming up in my life. And I feel like moving to Montana has really helped with that because, like I said, the weather here changes. And I feel like the skies are such a good teacher to me of that. It's like when the weather changes so quickly, you kind of realize that nothing is so permanent, that even if it felt like something was going to be just happening and that is it, and that's what you're in and you're stuck. When the weather changes, you experience something different. And you realize that nothing is permanent and things change. And I feel like this is something that I've learned about feelings as well. When we first moved to Montana, before we bought a house, but we were looking for a house, we had visited here and we liked it, and then we wanted to move here. We lived in an RV that we had purchased for a while. Can't remember if I've mentioned this in the show, but it was sorry for the interruption, but I don't know what is going on, but my cat that lives in this office, she's running all around crazy, and she just jumped over my computer and ran around, and she's running like crazy. So if you hear these noises in the background, yeah, I'm just going to keep going. So I'm just giving that kind of explanation. Or if you hear a cat meowing, you might hear that too, because we have an older cat that just meows a lot, all the time. Okay, so we lived in an RV that we bought, and it was kind of an interesting way of getting to know Montana more, because we had only been here in an RV. We had rented an RV to come on vacation here in Montana. And those were such jam-packed days that I didn't really have the kind of day in, day out experience of what it's like living in Montana. And bear with me, this topic is actually about the skies, okay? This cat is running around like crazy. I've never seen anything like it. She's just running all over. All right. So when we got here with the RV that we bought, and we had sold our house and we were looking for a house here, we lived in an RV park that we felt good in. You know, we felt like, okay, we could stay here for a little while we're looking. Not that I would ever go back to living in an RV because, 35 feet was tough to live in. But for us, for me at least, you know, I like having my physical space. But when we were living there, I noticed things, you know, like I would go to the grocery store and I would notice the skies. And one day I was driving and I noticed it was like, I think it was kind of sunny and, you know, pretty. And then all of a sudden, it's like this storm rolled in, and it was like this crazy show in the skies. And you could see the sunlight kind of where I was, but you could see further away these really, really dark clouds. And you could see there was some kind of precipitation happening. And I remember it kind of like got really bright, and then it got really dark, and literal tumbleweeds came out of nowhere and went across the road. I felt like it was in some kind of movie. I didn't even know what to make of it. And I really realized that, you know, in Montana, people talk about big skies, you know, big sky country. And I think there's a certain part of Montana that people really call big sky country, but I kind of think all of Montana feels like big sky country. For whatever reason, it just really feels like there are bigger skies here than other places that I've lived. I just really feel the power of the skies. And what I've experienced with the power of nature and the power of the skies is just the show that the skies and the clouds put on. And when we were living in our RV and I first started noticing, you know, I started noticing it because we were kind of here long enough to just kind of, you know, be doing our routine thing. And then I kind of started, you know, looking around. You're driving to Costco, right? And you're just kind of doing your default thing. You're just kind of like lost in your thoughts. And then you just kind of look around, right? Like I find that when I'm not needing to get somewhere and having to go somewhere, and, you know, I've got to jam pack this in the 4 days we're here to visit, you know, at those times I didn't notice when we were on our trip visiting. But once we were living here and we were kind of in the daily practice of life of just kind of looking for a house and living in our RV and whatever, it was almost like the kind of mundaneness of it allowed me almost like to just kind of tune out enough and then look up at the skies more. And the skies here are different. I mean, I lived in different places. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I also lived in North Carolina for some summers, and I lived for a number of years in California. I spent some time in Nevada. In California, we would get fog, and we would not, we would have like these really crisp blue skies, or it would be really overcast. In Pennsylvania, we would get those kind of big, almost like kids' illustration cloud kind of things in like light blue skies. But here in Montana, it's different. It's like, I don't know. I almost feel like I feel like a lot of my paintings, my artwork is influenced by the mountains, but also the skies. So many times I'll just look at the skies and the clouds. Like there's these clouds that form, and they're just so amazing, like just amazing. I started noticing this as I would just kind of go about my daily mundane life while we were looking for our house, living in our RV. And I started to really just look at the skies and appreciate the show that they were giving me. Like, wow, oh my gosh, look at those clouds. And wow, look at how this looks. And oh, look at that storm brewing. And it did something for me. It wasn't just a show. It affected how I felt. Like, not in a, oh, it's cloudy and I feel bad kind of way, but almost in a, I don't know, like in a way of like opening up and just seeing the beauty of nature did something. It touched my heart and it touched my soul. When we finally found a house, well, I don't want to say finally because we didn't look forever, but we looked for a while, and there were a lot of very uncertain times there where we thought we just were never going to find a house in Montana. And then finally we did, and it's kind of crazy, but this house that we live in, that we found, when we found it, we had no idea it had a view of a mountain, the mountain that I am looking at right now outside my office window. Because the day we came to see it was the day after Christmas, and it was snowing hard, and you couldn't see anything around. We barely found the property, and that's a whole other story. But we had no idea there was a view of the mountain. We had no idea of any of that. But one of the things that we discovered after we bought the house and we started living here is, oh my gosh, there's this view of the mountain. And in having a view of the mountain, we also get this other show, because we sometimes see the mountain and sometimes we don't. And sometimes there's clouds in front of the mountain and sometimes there aren't. And, sometimes the light, kind of how it looks on the mountain, is glowing, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's really bright and sometimes it's snow covered. The point that I'm making in all of this is that it's like there's this, I don't know, it's almost like I feel like there's this amazing painting that is constantly changing that I see in the skies here in Montana. It's like right now, like this morning, since I've gotten up here on the day of my dad's transition, the weather has changed like, I kid you not, probably like 20 times already just since I've been up. Like when I first got up, it was kind of like the sun was behind a cloud and it was kind of dark. And then I went out into the living room, which is kind of like our open space room, which also has a view of the mountain. And it was kind of dark, and I started journaling. And then it was like suddenly the sun popped up and was like bathing our entire living room in sun, but yet I could also see these kind of like dark clouds, but there was like this glow to everything. And there were these like really defined kind of clouds where you could kind of see the colors and the variation of the grays and the shapes. And then it changed, and there was like all of these like more uniform clouds, like kind of more gray, and it would kind of feel dark again, and then it would change again, and then it's like this ever-changing thing. And you might be like, Michelle, why are you talking about this? What is going on? What does this have to do with anything and the power of nature? But I feel like what I'm trying to articulate is how I've learned and been learning just how the amazing power of nature, when we tune into it, when we open ourselves up to it, when we allow ourselves to become aware of it, it does these amazing things. And for me, it's like looking at the skies. It's caused me to feel all kinds of different feelings, and to see different things. Like I said, it's almost like a painting that keeps changing. And how this has benefited me, at first I wasn't even really aware. I just knew that as I started doing it, I just started feeling different. I started feeling, I don't know, like there's something about the skies and how big they are and how vast they are and how powerful they are, that when you start looking at them, you start having a different perspective on things. At least that's what I've started to experience. That's part of what, it's like those ideas started to come to me. Like, oh wow, look at how the sky changes from one thing to another so quickly. Look at how it can go from being dark and ominous to bright and glorious. Like seriously, like an amazing photograph from some, Hallmark movie, or like what would be on an inspirational, religious card, where the sunbeams are coming down. Like these things, I feel like teach us things, or can teach us things about our own lives, and about to me, it's about what it's taught me is it's like the vastness of the skies and the power of nature, and what all I see helps me see that things are ever changing. That what seems like a reality or seems like the only set thing in one moment can shift, and shift to something really beautiful, from something really dark and scary to something beautiful and energizing and, just inspiring. And that it's all okay. I think one of the things that I don't know if I want to say one of the things, but I'll just say that one of the things this has really taught me is about trusting. It's like when you live in Montana and the weather's always changing and it's going from one thing to another, and you're seeing these skies and you're seeing the storms, you kind of learn that the weather will shift, right? Like 2 days ago, I think we had like this crazy hailstorm. Crazy. I mean, it was like pounding down, like these huge hail balls. And the first time it happened, I was just like, oh my God, like, what is this? And is it going to stop? And I remember there were a lot of people had like damage to their windshields of their cars and all kinds of stuff. But I've experienced this enough, you know, the hailstorms and the rainstorms and the fire season and the really cold and the really hot, to realize that there's always this shift. And I feel like this has helped me in navigating my own feelings, like feelings about my dad's transition, you know, not being afraid of my feelings, even if they feel like they are maybe not feeling so good, you know, maybe some bad memories coming up or some painful memories coming up or some happy memories coming up. But then I'm worried because, oh my gosh, my dad's not in my life anymore. And, you know, I can't have that. It's like the skies and the changing skies of nature remind me to feel okay in all of it. Just like I've done with the weather and the skies here, because I know that it will change. And I know that I'm okay through all of the changes. It's like the weather showing me that I'm okay in the torrential downpour. We make it through. I'm okay in the hailstorm. We make it through, regardless of damage, regardless of flooding, regardless of whatever. I'm okay in minus 30 degrees. The first time I experienced that one, I wasn't quite sure. But it inevitably shifts, and I learn and I acclimate and I learn how to navigate that. And it's not permanent. I'm okay when there's smoke from wildfires. I'm okay when the sun is beating down and it seems like it's really hot every day and there are no clouds and it just feels really hot and dry and no respite from that. I'm okay in all of it. This is what the weather and the skies have been teaching me here in Montana and in other places as well. And I think that it's taught me this about my feelings too, you know, that it's okay to sit and allow myself to feel what I'm feeling about my dad's passing. It's okay to remember the good times. It's okay to remember the not as good times. It's okay in all of it, just like it is with weather, just like the skies teach me. And one of the most amazing things that I've discovered is how, like here in Montana, I've just experienced this in the last couple of minutes as I've been sitting here. It's like it went from being dark and like you couldn't see anything except for just like lots of clouds, and our whole front yard was dark and kind of dreary, to like just a minute ago it's like everything shifted once again and my office was bathed in sunlight, like this glow. And now I look out and I see, I'm going to shift a little bit so my microphone might sound a little different, but so I can look out, I see these clouds and I see the sky and I see the mountains. And I've learned to like, I don't know if this is just me as an artist, but I've learned to just look for the beauty in all of it. My teenage son has a job, and we've been driving him to that job. And, it's kind of like this mundane thing. You go drive up and you get him and you drive back and whatever. And as I've been doing it, it's kind of a short ride, not long enough to really do anything except for kind of just look around. And I've really been noticing the skies lately, the clouds. And boy, have they been putting on a pretty amazing show for me. I've noticed, like, I don't know, there's just like some of the dark clouds and some of the light clouds and some of the formations. And like I said, they shift so much, a lot. But sometimes, I don't know, I feel like I see this in my car and I'm looking. And then I sometimes see other people and I kind of feel like I want to say to them, are you seeing this? Are you seeing these skies? Are you seeing this amazing beauty? Are you seeing this gift and what nature can show us? Because I know that as I've started to let myself see it, first just happening to look up and notice, and then doing it as more of a practice, as more of an intentional, conscious thing. Because that's what I do now. I look up to the skies a lot. I look up to see, what are they doing? What are they showing me? What kinds of amazing shows can I see today in the skies, or in this moment in the skies? And sometimes I feel like I want to shout it out to other people, like, are you seeing this? And sometimes I do. I'll say to my son or my husband or whatever, like, do you see that? Look at that, or at night, we've had Aurora Borealis. We've had these amazing shows. We've had amazing experiences with the stars and with the moon and with the silhouette of the trees and the glow of the moon. The skies aren't just about during the day. It's also about at night. And I feel like I want to say to people, are you looking up? Are you seeing? Because I feel like there are a lot of times in my life where I wasn't looking up. I would occasionally look up, but I wasn't looking up. And I feel like now that I look up regularly and frequently. I feel like it benefits me. Not just in the ways that I talked about, but it's like when I look up to the skies, whenever I'm doing whatever I'm doing, or I'm thinking whatever I'm thinking, it's almost like I snap out of whatever trance of thoughts that maybe I was stuck in, that maybe weren't very helpful for me. And when I look up, I get a new perspective. I look up and my attention gets focused on nature and the magic and the power of nature. And it shifts me. It shifts my attention. It shifts my energy. It shifts my experience. It shifts my thoughts. And it's been beneficial. It is beneficial to do this for me in a conscious way, as a practice, to look up at the skies and to see them and to let myself open up to the amazing, wondrous things that I can see when I look at them. And I invite you to perhaps do this yourself. You don't have to be in Montana to do it. I realize that the skies have always been available for me to look at, no matter where I've lived. But I think it's just in living in Montana and in coming to the awareness of my life and how I want to choose, how I can consciously choose what I want to focus on and things that benefit me, that the skies have always been there for me to look at, and have always and can always benefit me, no matter where I'm at, no matter what state or country I'm in. And if this is something that you feel resonates with you, I invite you to do the same. Let yourself open up to what the power of nature and the power of the skies can show you. You don't get there, or at least I haven't gotten there, by looking at the skies and saying, give me an answer, give me an answer. It hasn't come like that for me. The cat just ran through. It's come when I let myself just settle into the mundane life. And I'm just kind of going about my day, driving my kid to work, going to Costco, dealing with, whatever, when we were in our RV and being like, are we ever going to find a house? It's in those non-fancy, just everyday moments that I sometimes just remind myself, look up and just see. And when I do, I find that it benefits me. And that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode, and I will leave it at that until the next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Power of Nature podcast. To learn more about me and my other offerings, you can visit my website at michellewaldo.com. That's MICHELLEWALDO.com.